During the election campaign, I'll be profiling some of the most powerful people influencing voters, from the oil patch and climate crusaders to the big data genius inside the Conservative campaign. But this week, a closer look at a sophisticated political operative who could make it or break it for the Liberals. Gerald Butts, Trudeau's brander-in-chief.
This is the longest I've gone in 30 years without talking to the Prime Minister.
Yep, it was bad not talking to his best friend and having to come out of the shadows and testify publicly about his role in the SNC fiasco. But now he's back, working behind the scenes to try to get his pal re-elected. Gerald Butts met Justin Trudeau at McGill University. In a photo published years later in Trudeau's autobiography, they're both in white t-shirts, ripped jeans, and sandals. It was a political partnership in the making. The coal miner's son and the son of a rock star prime minister.
He taught us to believe in ourselves, to stand up for ourselves.
When his dad died, a family friend says Butts helped write the eulogy. Soon after, he was part of the team that helped Trudeau decide to run for office.
In Canada, better is always possible.
Since he's been Liberal leader, Butts has been by his side, a master strategist who took the party from third to first place just 2 years later. And a big part of his skill was helping to craft Trudeau's public persona, along with an aggressive social media campaign. From paddling the Nahanni to yoga poses, Trudeau and Butts made his father's brand his own. And remember the famous line about Trudeau's gender-equal cabinet because it's 2015? Well, guess who set up that singer? Yep, the Whisperer.
I think just calling people's attention to the year is all I really need to say.
Because it's 2015.
And that handshake with Donald Trump, well, that can be traced to Butts too. According to CBC journalist Aaron Weary's book Promise and Peril, Trudeau says Butts helped him choreograph that shake. And now, Butts is back. Can he help rebuild his friend's image?
You just cannot trust Justin Trudeau.
So yeah, the election's on, and there are a lot of books out there about Justin Trudeau from members of the National Press Gallery. But there's another new book that's quite different, written by a freelance journalist and environmentalist. Joining me now is Martin Lukács. His new book is called The Trudeau Formula. So, Martin, the subtitle of your book is The Seduction and Betrayal in an Age of Discontent. What are you saying was Gerald Butts' role in that?
Well, I think Gerald Butts really read the political temperature of the country, and he had Trudeau talk a good game about really transforming society on behalf of the 99%, while they quietly assured the 1% that things wouldn't fundamentally change.
I found one of the stories quite interesting. You write that while Gerald Butts was head of the World Wildlife Foundation back in 2010, he canceled a couple of projects that were seen as harmful to the oil sands because corporate donors were saying, oh, no, you're hurting us. We might not give you money anymore. You saw that as a harbinger of what he would do in the PMO. What do you mean by that?
I just think it's an uncanny kind of foreshadowing of how the Liberal government would operate in power. Butts came into this organization talking a really great game about the tar sands, talking about how there should be a moratorium on new projects, which is exactly what climate scientists are telling us we need to do. And then when corporate funders started to freak out about the fact that the interests of the oil industry were potentially being harmed, Butts engineered a reversal at the organization and shut down these tar sands campaigns that were happening that had raised a lot of interest and concern among Canadians across the country.
So why is that? Why do you say that's a harbinger?
Well, I think it's exactly what we saw with the Liberal government. You know, they went to Paris, for instance, in 2015 at the UN climate negotiations, and to global applause, Justin Trudeau said, Canada is back. And his environment minister led the charge in establishing a 1.5 degrees Celsius target, right? Which was unprecedented. And then he came back to Canada and unleashed a fossil fuel frenzy, approving 2 pipelines, liquefied natural gas, deep water exploration in the St. Lawrence. And, that's something that even Stephen Harper wasn't able to achieve.
Recently, Justin Trudeau went on the Hassan Minhaj show, which is very popular with young people. They contacted you. We've seen them write that they're big fans of your book. He went on the show, and it probably didn't work out quite as planned. Take a look.
I feel like it's pulling in two different directions. It's like me saying, I'm going to lose weight by eating more Kit Kats.
No.
And I love Kit
It is
Kats.
saying that the only way to protect our climate is to make sure that there is a growing economy at the same time.
So that didn't go exactly as planned. How did you see that?
Well, I think it was a disaster. And I was surprised that they would so miscalculate.
So it was an error in branding.
It was definitely a brand disaster. And I think that they were still riding high on the fact that they had gotten such an easy treatment from the global media, who for years had been basically, portraying Trudeau as this, the world's greatest progressive hope.
Yeah, well, we saw him on the cover of Vogue.
The cover of Rolling Stone asked if he could be the next, why can't he be the next US president? Even The Guardian, kind of half tongue-in-cheek, asked if Justin Trudeau's socks would save the world.
Is Gerald Butts a good brander?
Yeah, I think he's a very savvy brander. I mean, I think he did this job with Dalton McGuinty, the Premier of Ontario before. McGuinty said in his memoir that they basically, when they met, did a Vulcan mind meld, and they could finish each other's sentences. And, that wasn't someone who was his best friend like Justin Trudeau. So I think he was very good at understanding this kind of story that Justin Trudeau could sell really well. And a big part of that was reading the kind of temperature in the room. The Liberals have a very good sense, I think much better than the other political parties, that there's a huge amount of discontent in this country, a huge amount of discontent with the status quo.
So interesting, Martin. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Martin Lukács is the author of The Trudeau Formula. Of course, we reached out for Gerald Butts' side of the story, and a senior member of the Liberal team says that decision by the World Wildlife Fund to pull out of the anti-oil sands campaign was a decision made by Butts and by members of the board because they felt the campaigns didn't work with a long-term strategic plan.